104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports, and now we go straight to Cleveland because, well, everybody's headed to Cleveland. As a matter of fact, we're going to hang out with Alex Hooper right now of 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Alex, I have been making the argument that LeBron James is a cagey veteran, and I love that he was able to get Draymond Green to screw up. How big is that going to be when this whole series pans out?
You know, man, I was sitting around that day when we were waiting on the suspension, when we didn't know if it was going to happen, and no one really thought it was going to happen. When it came down, I was like, this is a completely different series now, because now you're sitting at 3-1 with the chance. I mean, Draymond Green is really the heart and soul of that Warriors team. Obviously, Steph Curry is the MVP, but Draymond Green really makes that team go to another level. Klay Thompson kind of does the same thing as Curry, but Green does all of the little things, and he frustrates people, and he sets, albeit moving, screens that are very effective. And when you took him out of that game at Oracle, I was like, there's a gleam. I mean, you can go and get that game, and they did. Now you go back home. Cavs are so good at home, and anything can happen in Game 7. I think there's a good chance that we look back on that suspension as the absolute biggest part of this series, because now the Cavs have a chance. There is an opening. It was given to them by Draymond Green, and just a building of, you know, those groin shots that he was taking at people, and it just built it. And like you said, LeBron, being the veteran he is, he knew what button to push, and Draymond pushed his buttons back, and it ended up in a Cavs Game 5 win. Now they get to take Game 6 to Quicken Loans Arena, where they're so great, and like I said, anything can happen. It really changed this whole series.
Alex, when you look at this game, the fact that the first time ever two players on the same team score 40 or more points, is that just because Draymond Green, or is there something you're seeing out of LeBron James and Kyrie Irving we didn't see before?
Well, they were hitting shots. LeBron was actually able to hit some outside shots, which he's just been abysmal this whole season, shooting from the outside. Kyrie was a little cold earlier on in this series, so obviously them being able to hit shots changes things, but I think a lot of LeBron being able to hit shots is Draymond being out of the game, because without Draymond in the game, LeBron's freed up to do different things defensively. On the offensive end, he's not going to be getting as beat up because Draymond is so physical, so it allowed them to do some different things. I think without Draymond in the game, the Cavs are as good, if not better, than the Warriors as a whole cohesive unit. But now with Draymond coming back, I think things might change back in that other direction. LeBron's going to be beat up, but now that he's scored 41, I think he can be more aggressive offensively. I think he's going to stop passing up those open shots that he passed up in Game 4. It was like he was really looking to over-defer, and he's done that at times, and it's never really hurt anyone throughout his career when he's started to defer maybe a little more than he should, because he's such a great passer. But in the NBA Finals against one of the all-time great teams, he's got to be completely perfect, and I don't think he can over-defer. I think that happens when Green's in the game. But, you know, what opened them up last night was, I think, just the ability to hit those open shots, because once LeBron hits open shots, once he hits deeper shots, it changes the defense, because he is the guy you have to key on, obviously, and he can get to the hole at will. You saw it last night. In the early goings, it was like he was just walking to the rim at times. And when he hits open shots, it opens things up for him. He can get to the rim, and when he gets going, everyone else gets open. And last night, everyone else was Kyrie Irving, and 41 points from each guy. It was something special, but the Cavs are going to need way more out of their bench, way more out of Kevin Love in Game 6.
What's the opinion in Cleveland of Kevin Love right now, Alex?
Man, you know, on our night show last night, we were talking about trading him, and people want to trade him. And I think a lot of it is people want someone to blame. People always want a scapegoat. Personally, I don't think you're going to get market value for him. I don't think you're going to get anywhere near equal value for him. But I do think you have to kind of kick the tires on it. Now, if he comes out in Game 6 and he shows exactly why you brought him in, then obviously those things will change. But, here I think a lot of people are just trying to look for something to kind of unload their unhappiness. They're still kind of sitting anxiety over the last two games of this series. And Kevin Love's a very easy target, especially after last night. He was just not good last night. He hasn't been great in this series. But the thing about Kevin Love is that he is a top-tier player, and you watch him against other teams. You watch him in the first three series of these playoffs for the Cavs. He shows why he is what he is, but he is not a good matchup against the Warriors. He can't stay in front of Draymond Green. He's not quite physical enough to, body Green up and then still fight around Festus Ezeli and Andrew Bogut. He doesn't work in this situation. He doesn't defend pick and rolls well. It just isn't. It's not his series. So obviously, as this series continues, I think people are still going to start to, still continue, I should say, to see things in Kevin Love that they say, we got to get him out of here. He's not the third part of this team. He's not a superstar, because that's a lot of what you hear. And when you watch him play against the Warriors, it just grows and grows.
Alex Hooper is the update anchor for 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Alex, I was watching last night's game pretty closely, especially Kevin Love, because I knew these kind of questions must be circulating in Cleveland, and I knew we were going to get a chance to talk to you. Teams plus 21 with him on the court. He seemed to play more physically last night. Is there any chance that he gets love, even though he's not, pun intended, even though he's not scoring points, because he's willing to do some of the dirty work?
I think if he starts to do some of the things that Tristan Thompson does, people will, come around on him. I think they want 20 and 10 every single game, 20 and 12. But if he can go in there and be another Tristan Thompson, get 15 rebounds and maybe only score 6, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I would certainly give him plenty of credit for doing something like that. I can't speak for the rest of the fans around here, because, they always want to tar and feather somebody. But, with the money he's making, the expectations are high. With the whole Big Three thing, the expectations are different than some other people. But he does do the dirty work sometimes. Early in the game yesterday, he gave up 3 offensive rebounds to Festus Ezeli, and that is not going to fly. That is something that he cannot do. He must be physical. He must move people out of the way, and he must get big rebounds. And 3 possessions and Festus Ezeli being the guy to do you in, that is not going to work. That is where people are going to continue to rag on him.
So you brought up Andrew Bogut. With him being potentially hurt and not being able, how does that favor the Cavs? Is that something that you guys look at and get pretty excited about?
I don't know. Bogut wasn't really playing more than, 11, 12 minutes a game, but I believe it was game 3 or maybe it was game 4 where he had those 3 consecutive blocks. He is a rim protector. He is a great facilitator from, the center position. He does a lot of great things. He's very physical. He's pretty intimidating, sets nice screens, but he wasn't playing a whole lot of minutes. So I don't know that it will make a huge difference, but, at the same time, when you're in game 100, 101, whatever it is now for both of these teams, sometimes you need those 12 minutes out of a big 7-footer who can move and pass the ball. Maybe it'll lead to, someone being a little more tired and making another mistake, but outside of that, I personally am not terribly excited about Bogut missing time. It's not anything that is going to make me think Cavs in 7 any more than I already may be trying to trick myself into thinking. But Bogut does do a lot of nice things, and he has done some nice things throughout this series. But, man, that knee injury looks bad, and yeah. I hope he is okay.
They're not supposed to bend that way.
No, they are not.
The series shifts back to Cleveland, Alex. How can the Cavs push this to Game 7? What are your thoughts?
Well, like I said before, they're going to need a lot more out of their bench. They're going to need a lot more out of Kevin Love offensively. Obviously, 2 guys scoring 40 for the first time in NBA Finals history. You can't count on that happening again. I've been waiting for Channing Frye to come into a game and do something, but Ty Lue doesn't really seem to want to go to Channing Frye in this series. You're going to have to contain Klay Thompson a little more once Draymond Green comes back, because that's going to open up that offense quite a bit more. But I think the main thing is you're going to have to rebound like you rebounded last night. LeBron had 16, Tristan Thompson had 15, and there was plenty more to go around. Still got to cut down on the turnovers A lot of bad turnovers that over and back where LeBron picked up the ball right before half court. Amon Shumpert turned over the ball a couple times that were pretty frustrating. So just a lot of the fundamental things. But I think last night you played about as well as you could. You put up 112 on that team and hold them under 100. That's the key. Is if you don't let them score 100, a lot of times you are going to beat them because they're not a great defensive team consistently. They can be, but they were not last night, and you just need to be able to find those holes. But you're not going to get 40 out of your stars again. Maybe 20-20-20. That would be fantastic. That's kind of a recipe for Cavs success, is getting 20 from each of the big three. But I think the main thing is just continue to rebound and cut down on those turnovers.
Alex Hooper is the update anchor for 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Alex, I hate to do this to you, but I got to ask this question. It's well known the championship drought in Cleveland. Let's say that the Cavs don't win this series, and I'm not saying I'm pulling for you guys big time. Does it hurt the fans more if it happens in Cleveland or if it goes to Game 7 and happens in Golden State?
Well, I bet there's a couple of answers to that.
Most of them are swearing at me, right?
Yeah, I guess so, probably. For the fans in attendance in Game 6, if that's how it goes, if it happens right in front of their eyes, I mean, it was the same thing that happened last year. I believe it was the same thing when they got swept against San Antonio, years back early on in LeBron's career. I would say if it goes to Game 7 and there's a glimmer of hope, then it would probably hurt a little more, because I know yesterday coming into the game, I was like, if they're going to lose it, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's just get it over with now. And then once they won it, I'm like, all right, well, Game 6, and anything can happen in Game 7. If it did get to Game 7, if they win at home, even up this series after 3-1, and then fall at Oracle in Game 7, I would say that would be about as heartbreaking as you could think of. We talked last night on the show about how we're writing the script, how if the Cavs are going to win a championship, end this drought, it's probably going to be in the most storybook way possible. When I was still at the News-Herald before I just left, I wrote an article entering the postseason about the same thing, against maybe the greatest team of all time. There's all this adversity. You fire your coach mid-season, and I think just continuing off of that, for this to be 3-1 and for them to come back and win, that would be that storybook ending. But also at the same time, if they come back from 3-1 and they lose in Game 7, I think that would be about the most Cleveland thing that could happen, and I'm never going to rule something like that out because I've seen it too many times. I'm only 25. I've seen it enough times. I can't imagine how, the lifers here that are way older than me feel, and I bet they're all anticipating it going to Game 7 and then just a blowout.
Alex Hooper of 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Alex, we appreciate your time. We're pulling for your Cavs. I don't know what it is. I looked at some of my old timeline stuff, and I was anti-LeBron like 5 years ago. Now I'm completely pro-LeBron and anti-Steph. So
Yep.
I'm with you, man. The Albany, New York is backing up Cleveland.
That sounds good. We appreciate it. We need your energy. We need your support. We need anything we can get at this point. But thank you guys for having me.
You got it, Alex.